I mocked him online with my secret lover. I received screenshots of every text. Hey everyone, you already read the title, so let's cut to the chase. Does anyone know how to blackmail someone? I really need to do that to my husband. Maybe I should explain the story before I ask. Yeah, let's do that. My name is Monica, 40, female, and for the past 7 years, I've been cheating on my husband, Charlie, 41, male. I know, I suck. You don't have to tell me that. I'm well aware. At least don't downvote me, yet. Just hear me out first. Listen to my story. Charlie and I met on graduation day. He tells this story to anyone that will listen. I don't blame him. It's a great story. You see, I got into college to study engineering. I'd always wanted to be an engineer, even when I was a little girl. My dad was an engineer, and so was my grandmother. Fun fact, she worked on military tanks that eventually went to Vietnam for the war. Sorry, I'm rambling. If you can't tell, I'm writing this story as it comes to mind. Every single thought I'm having right now, you're reading. Anyways, back to the story. I got in to study engineering in the same university my dad went to. For privacy and safety reasons, I can't tell you the college, but I will tell you that it's in Southern California and it has a very good automotive engineering department. I had fun in college, but I also knew what I wanted. I partied, but I also studied hard. Those tryhards that say you can't balance both are lying. I did it just fine. I graduated with really good grades, and I didn't give up the stereotypical college experience. On graduation day, after I'd collected my diploma, I was walking through the parking lot trying to find my dad. I must have looked so lost because I started hearing chuckling behind me. I turned around to come face to face with Charlie. It took me a few seconds to realize that he was laughing at me. I was pretty intense back then, so I asked him what he found so funny, right in his face. Without losing a beat, he just said, Rude. He's rude. That was my first impression of the man I would eventually marry. He continued to laugh at my shocked face. I was just about to tell him off when my dad appeared behind me and hugged me. I was so caught up in seeing my dad that by the time I turned back to Charlie, he was gone. I thought I would never see him again. I was wrong. 2 weeks later, I was back on my college campus to get a recommendation from one of my professors. You wouldn't believe who was in the professor's office, chatting it up with him, his feet up on his desk. Yep, Charlie. He looked surprised to see me too. Turns out my professor was his uncle. Small world, I guess. When my professor left the room for a quick minute, Charlie turned to look at me all sheepish. Hey, I think I should apologize for the laughing thing. I was high off my rocket and, well, you looked so adorable I had to laugh. My head spun. In 2 sentences, he had managed to break the idea I had of him in my head. The man that stood in front of me in that office didn't look rude. The only thing I could say was, You think I'm adorable? Charlie just shrugged shyly. His uncle came back with a printed recommendation letter before I could continue the conversation. This time I was reluctant to go. I liked his vibe. He didn't look like the guy who laughed at me. Charlie offered to walk me to my car. We walked in complete silence. I'm a firm believer in a man taking the first move. I won't lie. I was tempted to just ask him out myself, but I didn't. I was halfway in my car when he just blurted out, Let me take you out. And that was that. I loved Charlie with all my heart. I realized that on our first date. He picked me up and took me out for coffee. He looked so handsome in his loafers and sweater vest, even though it was like 80 degrees that day. He would later tell me that he was just so desperate to impress me and make up for our first meeting. He actually borrowed the clothes from his uncle. I thought it was adorable. He was adorable. Charlie had also graduated the same day as me. He didn't have a major for his entire freshman year. He only went into finance because he liked the pay. On that first date, I could tell that he wasn't really passionate about it. In fact, I could tell that he wasn't really passionate about anything. I loved what I studied, and I couldn't imagine someone not being the same way. Looking back, I should have seen the red flag from there, but whatever. Despite Charlie's apathy to pretty much anything, I still fell in love with him. He was funny and kind, and he didn't take himself so seriously. On our second date, he spilled his pasta all over his suit. Instead of letting that affect him and potentially ruin his night and our date, he just laughed it off. He was so easygoing that sometimes I couldn't understand him. We were just wired differently. But back then, that difference never felt like a problem. If anything, it felt like a kind of glue. He made things lighter. I made things move. People are so funny. Anyone who has ever met me, even for 2 seconds, would tell you that I'm the most type A person to ever exist. I planned everything in detail. I planned when I woke up. I planned what we ate every day. I even planned the underwear I wore. But not once did I sit down and plan out a life with Charlie. Life just started happening around us. Exactly a year after our third date, we signed the lease on a modest 2-bedroom close to my office. By the way, if any of you reading this live in downtown LA, you might want to avoid West Adams. All the apartments there only have windows facing brick walls and air conditioning that only works in the mornings. I hated it. Charlie hated it. But it was ours. I don't miss it. It's the kind of place you laugh about later if you stay together long enough. I tried to make it feel like a real home. I bought rugs and candles and anything else you can think of. Charlie didn't care either way. He just liked having me around. He'd come home with gas station flowers and flirt with me as if we weren't already together. He left dishes in the sink but always picked up food when I worked late. I nagged. He ignored, but somehow we never really fought. Charlie's uncle used to joke that we didn't have enough money to fight. We didn't talk much about the future, not because I didn't want to, because God knows I did. It's just that Charlie never really thought ahead. He just showed up and made the best of wherever he had. I was the planner and the one who always had a backup. Charlie didn't even know what shoes he wanted to buy until we were at the store. The job he had, he only got it because of his uncle. Apparently, the guy who owned the company used to be college roommates with his uncle. All Charlie had to do was make a phone call. I think that's where my resentment started from. Charlie had never worked hard a day in his life. It wasn't fair that he just got to coast through life completely unbothered, yet having things work out for him. I had to work my entire life. I'd had a job since I was 15. Meanwhile, Charlie lived off his parents till he graduated college. I studied for 3 hours every day so I could get a high SAT score to get into the university of my dreams. Charlie got an okay SAT score, but his sister helped him write a pretty good essay so he got into the school. I had to ask for a recommendation letter. Charlie just got one. Despite the resentment growing in me, I stayed in a relationship with him. I did love Charlie, as stupid as that sounds now. The way we got engaged was peak Charlie. One day we were watching TV and he turned to me like he just remembered something and said, "Want to get married?" He didn't have a ring and he hadn't prepared a speech. There wasn't even an expensive dinner. I laughed, asked if he was serious, and when he nodded, I said okay. We went ring shopping the next day and picked one that was on sale. When I would later ask why he chose that moment, he'd tell me that he just knew he wanted to watch TV next to me for the rest of his life. That was sweet, but I did wish he put in a bit more thought into it. I would have liked a real proposal with flowers and a speech and professional photos, but whatever, I let it go. The wedding itself was big. I decided that if the proposal was small, the least Charlie could do was let me have a big wedding. It was in the backyard of his grandparents' massive house. I hired a professional caterer. We got an entire hair and makeup crew for all of us. My cousin was the photographer. My mom cried. His dad got emotional saying his speech, and everyone got drunk. It was the perfect night. At that point, we had been together for 4.5 years, and I can confidently say that that was the most I was ever in love with Charlie. He was everywhere. I could smell him, see him, touch him. And the best part was he was all mine. For a while, things were good. We got a nicer apartment. I got promoted. Charlie bounced between jobs, but somehow always landed on his feet. The phone calls from family members and family friends on his behalf helped a lot. After more than 6 years together, that resentment that I tried to push down came back like crazy. Charlie was so lazy, it drove me insane. Let me tell you guys the last straw that made me lose it. It was a printer. We had this ancient home printer I kept saying we needed to replace. It jammed all the time, made this horrible grinding sound, and ate paper like it was starving. I told Charlie to handle it. That's all. Just replace the printer. It had been months. He kept saying he was looking into it or waiting for a good deal. Meanwhile, I had a massive project at work that required me to print floor plans and reports and invoices from home, and every time I hit print, I wanted to throw the whole thing out the window. One morning, I had a major client meeting. I was printing out a full proposal package I had stayed up until 2 a.m, perfecting, and the printer just stopped. I unplugged it, plugged it back in. Nothing. I checked the fuse. Nothing. It was gone. I had half of the reports printed and no time to fix anything. I woke Charlie up in a panic and asked him why he hadn't replaced it like I'd asked. He just blinked at me and said, "Guess you'll have to figure something out." Then he just rolled over and went back to sleep. I stood there in the hallway staring at him, and I swear to you, I felt my heart physically detach from him. Like something inside me pulled away and refused to come back. I realized that as much as I loved him, I hated him even more. I threw on my jacket, grabbed the half-printed stack, and drove like a maniac to the print shop near my office. I was 20 minutes late to my meeting and showed up sweating through my blouse. But I made it work. I always made it work. Because no one else ever would. Especially not Charlie. I'm trying to explain the state of mind I was in that morning. I'm trying to explain the state of mind I was in when I saw James, 35, male. I'd seen him before in the lobby. He always dressed sharp, and whenever we would talk, he was always polite. From what I heard about him from my work friends, he was super organized. That morning, he held the elevator for me while I was juggling my papers and coffee and a laptop bag. Everything was slipping out of my bag because it wasn't properly zipped up. My hair looked a mess. My shirt was untucked. It was just a horrible start to my day. James didn't say anything at first. He just smiled, hit the button for my floor, and let the elevator settle into silence. But right as we got to my floor, he said, "Well, you look like you've had a great morning." I can't explain how funny that was to my very sleep-deprived brain. After I finished laughing, I told him about the stupid printer and the half-printed reports, and my useless husband who had been researching printers for the better part of a year. He just smiled and said, "Next time, use the one in my office. It actually works." The next time I saw him, a week later, I took him up on the offer. I brought a report down on a Friday afternoon and asked if I could steal his printer for 5 minutes. He cleared space on his desk without hesitation. He even offered me coffee. We talked. In those 5 minutes, I learned a lot about him. I found out he used to live in Chicago. I found out he had a golden retriever named Benny who ate his socks. I found out that he moved to California because of a really bad breakup. It became a bit of a routine. I'd make up whatever excuse to go down there and print something. Those 5-minute printing jobs turned into 20-minute conversations. He started bringing me coffee. It's funny how having a crush turns you 15 again. You start doodling their names on your notebooks. You blush when they look at you. You start to find whatever reason to see them. You smile when you hear their name. I started wearing lipstick again. I started checking my hair in the mirror before I went to his office downstairs. You might be wondering, what of Charlie? How did he feel about these new developments? Charlie, in typical fashion, didn't even notice. My resentment for him tripled at that. I suddenly had no regret about what I knew this was leading to. The first time James and I met outside the office, it was because the power went out in our building. Our boss told us to go home, but I didn't want to. Not yet. So I texted him and asked if he wanted to grab a drink. He said yes right away. We met at a bar 2 blocks from the office. He was already there when I arrived. He had ordered my drink before I even sat down. That was the kind of thing Charlie would never have done. Charlie would probably wait until I came before he made me order something for him. James and I didn't sleep together that night, but I knew I was already cheating. I'm a smart woman. I know what emotional cheating means. I also knew that it would not end with emotional cheating. I knew it by the way I leaned in too close when he talked. I knew it by the way I told him things I had only told Charlie. I knew it when he brushed my wrist lightly and I didn't pull away. Charlie was still on the couch when I got home. He was fast asleep and the TV was still playing. Before, seeing him like that would make my heart swell with affection. But in that moment, all I had for him was detachment. I didn't recognize him as my lover anymore. The next day when he woke up, he didn't ask where I'd been. That was when I stopped feeling like I owed him anything. So when James and I did sleep together, I didn't even feel guilty. That probably makes me sound like a terrible person, and maybe I am, but I really don't care. I came on here to be honest, so I'll be honest. The guilt never came. Not then, and not for the 7 years that I continued the affair. Everything with James felt different. At first, we didn't talk about Charlie. That was an unspoken rule. But of course, real life doesn't let you live in fantasy for long. James started asking questions. I started to open up more about Charlie. I told him about how we met and about how I fell out of love with him. James asked why I didn't just divorce him. I thought about it. Why didn't I just call it quits with Charlie? Charlie was a lot of things, but he wasn't stupid. He must have been aware of the looks I sent him. He must have been aware of how I felt about him. But Charlie and I had been together for so long. I didn't want to lose the security. Plus, what would people say? So I stayed with Charlie. But I didn't stop seeing James. In fact, we got more bold. We started exchanging racy texts during meetings. We'd sneak in quickies during our lunch breaks in his car. One time, I managed to go for a weekend work conference where I stayed in his apartment the entire time. I told Charlie it was in San Diego. It was 10 minutes from our apartment. I was so confident in my relationship with James that I eventually started mocking Charlie. At first, it was just to James, who thought it was hilarious. But after a while, I decided to take it online. For someone very lazy, Charlie wasn't really into social media. I thought he'd never see it. So I made an account where I posted jokes and memes about useless husbands and how I had to do everything myself. I never said his name, but if you knew us, you knew. Thankfully, no one who knew us in real life followed it. James followed the account. He thought it was hilarious. We'd send each other memes and laugh about it while lying in bed. In our DMs, we'd mock Charlie too. We even started calling Charlie by the nickname I used online, Mr. Printer Deal. That's how far it went. I started turning Charlie into a joke. It's not like it wasn't true. The memes were just a caricature of all the things I hated about him. I know it sounds cruel. Okay, it was cruel, but you need to see where I was coming from. I thought it'd just be a random thing between me and my lover. And then it all blew up. One day, Charlie asked me where I was going. It was a Thursday. I remember because I had back-to-back meetings and was already in a bad mood. I snapped at him, told him I had real work to do. He didn't argue, but he did look very angry. When I got home that night, everything was off. The TV was off, the lights were off, and Charlie was sitting at the kitchen table not saying a word, just staring at me. Before I could ask him what was going on, he slid his phone across the table. His face was serious. Charlie is very rarely serious, so I knew something was up. It's funny, my affair was the last thing that came to mind. I thought maybe someone died, or he quit his job again. Nothing could have prepared me for what I saw when I tapped on his phone to unlock it. My heart nearly stopped, because on the screen were screenshots of every single text I'd sent to James in his DMs, every meme, every picture, every time I called him a deadbeat, every sarcastic post, every appointment with work. He had everything. I just stood there frozen. And then he smiled and said, "You really should have used a better password." Charlie got up and went to the bedroom. It felt like I was watching a movie. I was powerless to stop him. He continued talking. Funny how easy it was to use your laptop to get into your Instagram. For an engineer, you only seem to understand security. When he came out of the bedroom, he had a suitcase with him. I realized I was crying. I don't know why. He looked at me with actual disgust. "We're getting divorced." Then he left. It's been a couple of hours now. I'm feeling a bit better now. No great loss. Not like Charlie did much for my life anyways. I think a weight has been lifted off me. I can now be with James. Nothing is stopping us now. The only problem is that I wouldn't like the news of our affair to reach people. So back to my original question. Does anyone know how to blackmail someone? Because nothing is stopping Charlie from telling everyone I know. I have to stop him before he does. Any advice is appreciated. Just hurry up with it. I don't think I have that much time. Charlie would probably tell someone by tomorrow. Comments. Commenter 1. I downvoted your story. You seem like a bad person. If Charlie's sin is being lazy, you sin is being a jerk. Commenter 2. I know having a lazy partner isn't ideal, but you knew who he was before you married him. Also, you could have talked it out. Instead, you used it as an excuse to cheat. Update. 1 month later. Hello. Let's just get down to it. Me and Charlie are officially getting divorced now. Luckily, we rent our home, so no need to argue over that. But he is taking the car, which sucks because I really like that car. I've decided not to fight him on much. My lawyer says I'm lucky he's not suing me for emotional distress. At first, James and I tried to make it work. It didn't last long. We constantly fought and argued. I guess we weren't really as compatible as I thought. Eventually, we broke up. I thought that would be the end of that. But Charlie went to our boss and presented evidence that we had a relationship. Our workplace really frowns on coworker relationships. Because James is a bit higher up than I am, he only got a talking to. I got fired. I'm still in our old apartment, but I have no idea how I'm going to pay the rent this month without dipping into my savings. I haven't really seen Charlie much. He straight up refuses to attend the divorce settlement meetings. From our mutual friends, he seems to be doing well. He's kept his job and he's trying to brush off that laziness of his. I don't love him anymore, but it does hurt to know that he's doing well and I'm not. Speaking of friends, only 2 of them are speaking to me right now. They've all taken Charlie's side, the snakes. At least I still have my family. They're very disappointed in me, but they are talking to me still. I'm sure all of you will be very happy to hear this. I hate all of you. Hope I never encounter you ever again. Bye.